Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call to order the regular city council meeting of June 11th, 2025 to order. Ms. Cassandra.
Mayor David Romero,
Here.
Councilor Marvin Martinez,
Present.
Councilor Barbara Casey,
Here.
Councilor Michael Montoya, Councilor David Ulivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Councilman Ulivari, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pay
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Montoya, will you lead us in a moment of silence?
At this point, my understanding is we had a bad accident sometime last night in our community, and I don't know all the details, but we do want to ask for everybody's prayers for the families involved and for our entire community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Motion by Councilor Casey, second by Councilor Martinez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next on the agenda is public input. We have no public input this evening. Moving on to our mayor's appointments, reports, recognitions, and proclamations.
As far as reports, I will say last week we did have a town hall with the governor. I know the city manager will, touch to a couple of those items, so I'll let him touch up on that. I will also note, following that meeting, we did request a meeting with the governor, and we'll be meeting tomorrow. So if one of you councilors, have time, I know we can't violate the quorum, but if one of you would like to join, I welcome that. Just get with me on that. Other than that, I'll make it short, and that's it.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our councilors' reports.
Councilors?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilor Casey?
I have received several phone calls about the entertainment district resolution that was before this council last month. And people are very concerned, and they would like to know if we can possibly have a public meeting so that we get input from the community before anything is done. And that way we don't prepare another document for us to see at whatever meeting it comes up in without having public input. And maybe this will be a way to prevent misunderstanding and people can't say that we didn't have public input on the issue. So I did say that I don't make those decisions, but that I would bring it up at tonight's meeting so that the city manager and the mayor and the council know that that you are all aware that I've been receiving calls about this. Let me see. I think that's about it for now, but people are very pleased that the streets are getting worked on. They're very happy about that, and we have amazing workers in our city. And I think that we should always keep in mind that everything that they do not for themselves to bring praise upon themselves, but to make the community a better place for our citizens in which to live. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilman Ulivari?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the Arnold and the city crew. I know it's the weeding system. We get weeds all over. I got some calls on some of the areas that are like stop signs that are not that have a lot of weeds. I know you've been taking care of them, Mr. Lopez, but maybe Mr. Manager, you can take a look at that on the west side. And thank you for the potholes. We have a lot of working on potholes, and the west side's got a lot of potholes. I could mention like 8 or 10 streets that Mr. Lopez is working on them. I want to thank them for doing that. Maybe in the later future, we could start looking at that and see if we could have them paid one of these days or do something with them. But I just want to say thank you to the staff for the work they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Martinez?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention, I have had some talks with Lucas about actually putting in another fire department, hopefully on Grand Avenue. And, you know, it would be very nice if our community would have a fire department in every ward, naturally. That would be the big goal. I just, you know, and we're just trying to figure out a few things on that property that we're talking about. It's the property directly across from the roundhouse. That property does not currently belong to the city, but if we're looking at ways to possibly acquire it and maybe set up a fire department in that region. So also, I just wanted to say thank you to those first responders on the accident that took place last night. I'm sure that an accident of that nature is pretty hard to deal with when you finally get to something, and then when people pass away, these are families that are in our community. And again, I would just want to reach out to first responders, our fire department, our police department, and naturally the ambulance crew that gets there. But prayers to those families as well. And again, thank you for your response on that accident. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Councilman Montoya?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Councilor Martinez, last year or 2 years ago, when we were setting up a list for lobbying for projects, the mayor and the council decided to go with a fire training academy instead of a fire station in that ward. I support that effort. I think it's a long ways from New Mexico Avenue to your ward, and from Legion to your ward. Right. And lives matter, and then the deal with the railroad tracks and so forth. Those are challenges that we have. But I do support that, and I'm willing to support whatever comes out of that. I did attend Finance Empowerment Summit at New Mexico Highlands University yesterday that our New Mexico State Treasurer, Laura Montoya, no relation, by the way, I'm just kidding. But she had a summit for people that are getting monies or funds from FEMA on how to invest them or how to use them wisely and so forth. The mayor attended as well as our city manager. And there was a good crowd of people that attended, and it was a lot of information. And I'm glad that they brought that program to Las Vegas, New Mexico. And I'm glad that people got an opportunity to learn more about what happens when you get some bunch of monies and so forth. And lastly, I just want to congratulate our Mora County manager, Richard Trujillo. He was my utility director when I was the chairman with the utilities 20 years ago for a 4-year period. And he's also been in the capacity of working for the state engineer's office and also as a city manager in Las Vegas and as a water director. And now he stepped up into some big shoes as a county manager up there, and I congratulate him and his family, and I think we're real proud of him, and we're here to support him. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to our city manager's report. We have our city manager, Mr. Robert A. Anaya.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, and the public. I provided the report written, but I would like to read the report into the record if I could, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Romero and City Council, 8 days into the job, I want to first and foremost thank you again for the opportunity to serve the governing board, the staff, and the citizens of Las Vegas. I am learning and listening daily and appreciate the collective efforts across all departments of staff, as well as contract support that we receive from external people in the service of the city. In this process of managing the efforts of the city, I'm committed to listen, learn, and act in a manner consistent with the direction and leadership provided by the mayor and the city council. Communication. In order to carry out the effective operation of the city, after we listen and we fully understand a given request or challenge, we must effectively communicate and plan our work. As the work proceeds, it's our responsibility to monitor the work consistently and clearly communicate its completion citywide. Citywide, we have already started the process of improving internal communication and processes to assure we accurately and professionally communicate externally. Action. We are building a comprehensive internal digital calendar citywide by department to track grants, contracts, agreements, memorandums of understanding, and other relevant information to assure compliance and the effective management of the work we do. 2, we are beginning the process of tracking requests, internal and external, to better monitor and report out our work. 3, we are working to improve communication protocols and backup documentation as we carry out our citywide work. Financial management and accountability. As a city, we are responsible and accountable to the mayor and council and the public to assure that all resources in our care are expended consistent with our ordinances, policies, procedures, and requirements under state law. We are responsible to constantly review and revise our protocols to assure compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. We are committed to achieve the highest level of financial management and transparency possible to be reflected in our annual audits. Last week, it was determined that we did not have our audit fully completed, and we submitted to the state auditor as required. We quickly adapted, coordinated with the audit firm and internal staff, including the mayor, and are working to finalize the documents necessary for submittal and follow-up at exit conference. The collective team, including the audit firm, recognized the gaps, and we are putting measures in place to avoid this from occurring again. On May 28, 2025, the governor conducted a town hall to express concerns associated with the recovery and work and expenditures completed to date associated with the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire. On the first day of work, June 2nd, 2025, I requested from our internal team a full financial accounting of expenditures associated and directly related to the fire and the cascading after effects of the fire caused by flooding. In the coming weeks, we will provide a full update and report and a strategic action plan moving forward. We will be attending the meeting with state leadership tomorrow, Thursday, June 12th, 2025, to develop a comprehensive communication and implementation strategy moving forward. We fully understand the urgency and the necessity to expend the available resources allocated to the city, but we are as committed to assure recommendations to you, the mayor and council, are workable based on facts and professional feedback. We are working through the budget to assure we are prepared for your review and approval for final submission in accordance with the requirements and the timelines of the Department of Finance and Administration. Before the final is provided to the mayor and council, it will be provided to the Finance Committee for review. Water supply compliance and improvement. The top priority and work of the city is to assure that our most precious resource, water, is protected, preserved, and delivered to the residents it serves in a clean, professional, and appropriate manner. Our internal team has worked lockstep with the staff of the Drinking Water Bureau to assure continued compliance and testing in accordance with the rules, policies, and laws and directives provided by the state of New Mexico. These connected to standard practices, procedures similar to the requirements of entities statewide, as well as specific provisions and requirements we are responsible for connected to administrative orders directly linked to the city of Las Vegas. We have been open and transparent in our communications with the state and will continue as we determine next steps for the delivery of water to our residents. We will remain at the table with the state and other partners as necessary to advance projects and recommendations in a timely manner. FEMA infrastructure improvements, debris removal coordination, known and unknown. There are many challenges associated with the fire and its lasting effects for decades to come. We have been working with our team internally and externally to submit for reimbursement from the federal government. We will provide ongoing updates, starting with an explanation, an overview of expenditures and work that has taken place thus far. Subsequent to the June 21st, 24 flood event, there were numerous actions that were essential and necessary. As attached, and I'll be handing this out, is an accounting of expenditures taken totaling $6,539,370.36. We are submitting these funds for reimbursement as a public assistance project through FEMA. Our team and our contract team are here to review the expenditures and reimbursement requests. I'm going to ask that Deborah and our finance director speak to this later for the finance director's report, and then I will add additional comments as well. Organizational chart, action. I am reviewing the organizational chart and assuring it's consistent with the consistent framework or the framework that currently exists. I will be making recommendations as needed for amendment and will bring those back to the mayor and council for review and approval. Closing, mayor and council, I will continue to compile and track the report and bring back updates of your essential work, including our individual meetings and requests that I have had with each of you and those that come from requests that you make at city council. I've individually had an opportunity to meet with 3 of you, and Councilor Ulibarri and I are going to meet early next week to discuss matters as well. I stand ready to have regular scheduled meetings with you, and I've already started the process of scheduling those regular meetings based on your availability. Mayor, I don't think I'll be reading in all of the reports like I did today, but I felt it important today for you, the mayor, and the council, as well as the public, to set forward somewhat of a framework of how I'll be bringing things forward. But I stand ready for any questions that you might have and look forward to continued efforts to get things done.
Councilman Montoya?
Yeah, so, Mr. City Manager, my understanding is, and our finance director told us that to Mayor and Council, that audit report was turned in on time and it met all requirements. And it also went to the Finance Committee, and they asked if everything was up and up on the submitting of the audit, and if there was any issues, anything like that, and there was no issues. So I don't know what documents they're asking for, and why are they asking for them now?
If you would come forward, Mr. Madrid. Mayor and Councilman Montoya, I'll make a few remarks, and then I'll give Mr. Madrid an opportunity to respond. And I think the mayor will also have some additional comments as well. But I'll say this. It was my understanding, and the reason that I bring this forward to you transparently is to is to emphasize that the importance to have our audits, I don't have to express to you. The mayor and council understand that level of importance. Once the audit exit committee meeting was done, there was some information that was requested that we fundamentally didn't respond to take care of. We should have. I've addressed that with our team internally. And there was also some gaps associated with communication later that, from my perspective, the auditor should have advanced some additional communication as well. So I think we take responsibility for the gap in what we did not do, but I can tell you that the auditor did accept some level of responsibility as well. Mr. Madrid, would you speak to what we're doing to speak to your response relative to Councilman's request, and then also what we've done and are doing to assure we have the documents in place?
Sure. In response to my statements to the council and the finance committee, I did absolutely say that the audit had been turned in and there were no issues, because that's what I believed. Coming from the other side, as a former public accountant myself, normal procedure is when the exit conference is done, the audit is complete. We received an email request the next day for some information that, without making any excuses, we didn't respond to. We just didn't handle it, didn't see it, whatever. That's my department, that's my name. By not responding to that, my assumption was that the work papers and the draft audit report had been turned into the state auditor's office. And if there were any questions, they were from the state auditor to the firm to us. So my assumption was incorrect, that it had been turned into the state auditor's office. It never was. The time lapse in between is the part that we had a discussion with our auditor about, and in the framework of, well, if you didn't get a response from the finance department, why didn't you call the city manager or the mayor? And that's the part that they were weak on. We both have shared responsibility. In our discussion with the auditors yesterday, they have agreed, and the manager has recommended that we actually put in language in the next audit contract to make sure that that happens. We have provided all the information requested. I can assure you that it will not change the opinion or the content. It is just for confirmation. I can't discuss the content of the report till it's actually released by the state auditor. The delay is not a good thing, and we accept responsibility for that. In the finance department, we expect accountability from other departments, and we are accountable for our actions too.
So, Mr. Mayor, so when will we hear the results of the audit?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, the documents that were requested will be reviewed by the auditor, and they've assured us that they're going to expedite that review. That review will then be provided back to us, and as stated previously, I will provide the documents to the Finance Committee so that the Finance Committee will be able to review and then take those recommendations to Mayor and City Council.
And thank you very much. And we all understand the importance of the audits. I mean, we don't want to go that road. Thank you, Mr. Madrid. On another note, you mentioned on your report the water and the update on the waters and so forth. But where are we on the fines that we had, and how far back did those fines go? And have we paid them, or where are we at on the water fines?
Mayor, Councilman Montoya, we did make payment on our fines, and I'll defer to Mr. Madrid to give you detail on the fines that were remitted.
Yes, the fine was about $276,000, dating back to, I think, 2022. The settlement agreement called for the city to make payment through an ACH by the 30th of May, which was done. We did comply and confirm that they did receive it. So we are in compliance with that.
Mr. Martinez, if you could provide a little more background associated with the context of those fines in summary?
Excuse me. The fines go back to the administrative order that everybody knows of the TOCs and the disinfection byproducts stemming back from 2022 to 2023 that the city was never able to contend with, and 2024 is when we were served with administrative order.
$276,000.
$276,000 and $1,000 per day after that per violation. And those are three different violations we have.
And now we're up to par on the regulations? Now we're up to par on not getting any more fines? Or what are we doing to not avoid getting any more fines?
So, the administrative order, the TOCs and the byproducts and stuff like that, that's based off of the running annual average. Running annual average is based off of 4 quarters of the year. So far, right now, the city of Las Vegas has met 2 of the quarters. So we still have another 2 more quarters to meet. And then after that, we have, I believe the TOCs is in November and the disinfection byproducts and the HA5s are in February of 2026.
Thank you. Mr. Anaya, we were supposed to hear about the investigation, the first meeting in May. Where are we at on that? Is
Mr.
it being
Mayor-
dropped or what's going on with that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, I'll defer to the mayor on this particular point. I have not received any additional information since the second relative to this particular investigative report.
So Counselor, if you recall, we did have the attorney present at last month's meeting that, the previous city manager did bring on board for the investigation. If you recall, she was on Zoom. She said that she had scheduled staff. I don't know if that happened. I know I did make 2 calls already, and I haven't heard back. So I'm following up on that so we could get it on the next meeting if possible. It hasn't been dropped. I just, it's all in her court right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, if I could, I will absolutely do follow-up. I have understood from conversations with some of staff that those investigations are happening. In fact, Mr. Martinez gave me information the other day relative to discussions that were going on with his staff. Relative to your request and the comments relative to the administrative order, if you could, Mr. Martinez, if you could speak to how regular you've been meeting with the Drinking Water Bureau relative to compliance, and that's an ongoing process. If you could just speak to that particular aspect of the administrative orders and how the communication occurs between the city of Las Vegas and the state of New Mexico Drinking Water Bureau and other parties, that would be appreciated.
Yes, sir. So, coming in last year from myself around this time, we've been meeting with the Drinking Water Bureau at least once or twice a month. And of course, we have our monthly reports that we have to submit. We also meet with State Engineer's Office as well. And we also meet with the EPA on a regular basis. But with Drinking Water Bureau, we meet with them more than like twice a month. And that's to keep up with everything that has been done at the water treatment plant. That's reporting everything that's being conducted, upgrades, as well as them participating in helping us with equipment that we have to stay in compliance. So we are on a constant communication with Drinking Water Bureau.
And if I could, thank you, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya. I would add that I was able to participate along with Lucas and Caleb within the last meeting. There was a lot of individuals, probably 13 people on the call when you included everyone, Mr. Martinez, but I will state that highly technical level of questioning and back and forth discussions in that meeting, but the tenor and tone of the meeting was positive associated with the work that we've been doing. And also would note, from the Sulzer Group, Mr. Howe's participation in that meeting as well. So the tenor and tone was positive relative to our work and the progress that's been ongoing, not ending, but ongoing, I think would be the best way to say it.
And you got it on a good day, because usually there's about 19 people total. It's more than 4 people from the city and the rest is from the Drinking Water Bureau, so.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the full council, I think that's an important note to have on the record, that we work in coordination and compliance with the state of New Mexico and all those partners on a regular basis. So we don't do anything unilateral associated with the operation of our water facility. That's done in accordance with the administrative orders that we're on, but also in compliance and in accordance with state law associated with conditions under the Drinking Water Bureau.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Anaya, I kind of got different vibes at that governance meeting from individuals. It seemed like, I mean, they were throwing down the hammer on us, and it didn't seem like it was going to stop anywhere. So I'm concerned that we should have some communication on a weekly basis with them and figure this out and come to some conclusions, because I think some people are just jumping the gun on the city of Las Vegas, period. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Montoya, we're fully committed to remain at the table, be at the table, and work in coordination to get things done.
Counselor, if I could kind of tap into that, I just, I think for the public's sake, because we're going to hear the fine of this 200,000, but I think we got to remember the date of when the sanitary survey and, when we received, that basically it was a letter of non-response. I became mayor in December. This, again, was from a sanitary survey from 2021 to 2022. Am I correct, Travis, in saying that? For the fiscal year, well, how it's conducted, eventually it was 2022 that this sanitary survey was.
So, how do I put this? The city of Las Vegas has had a lot of, like the mayor just said, non-responsive to the state. The 2021 sanitary survey was being conducted. Of course, then COVID hit. Then they gave the city, I believe it was 180-day extra time to finish up the survey. The survey was never done. And then, of course, we got hit with the violations with the TOCs, TTHMs, and all that. And that just all fell together with the administrative order, just cascading on all of that with the non-responsive.
The other part that I do want to add is when the letter came out, I know Mr. Travis and others, worked diligently there were things that we had, just again, no response. When the letter first came in, I think it was excess of $1 million fine. And eventually, I could say management worked on it to get that down. I will say that.
It did go from 1 million down to the 276,000. And the original, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but the change of the administrative order, now that we did pay. Am I okay, so, right now, the change of the administrative order has changed the parameters of the administrative order due to the fact that the city did pay the $276,000 in good faith and agreeing to the terms of the Drinking Water Bureau. The original administrative order was not due till November of 2025. That's when everything was finalized. The city of Las Vegas went ahead and they pretty much made the deal with the Drinking Water Bureau or the state, whichever one you want to call it. They did pay the $276,000 in good faith, but in return, that also changed the parameters for violations if we violate per day. So instead of paying $1,000 a day for each violation, it's now $3,000 for each violation per day if the city doesn't meet those requirements. So due to that fact, the parameters of the administrative order has changed.
So, Mr. Mayor, our goal is to assure that we remain in compliance, that we remain in communication and coordination with the Drinking Water Bureau. And just to clarify, I want to be clear with Councilman Montoya. When I was talking about the positive tone and tenor of the meeting, I wasn't talking about the meeting associated with the governor. I was talking about the Drinking Water Bureau. But I think it's an important one to note because what happened at the governor's meeting and respecting her role as the governor and leading the state of New Mexico, there are two different aspects to what we do. We have compliance and responsibilities associated with our water system, and then we have expenditures and work that we need to do coupled with the work to rebuild the system and improve it. So two parallel tracks, but I just felt it was worth noting. Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
You know, one last question on that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I gotta ask. You know, so if this fines were placed back in 22, 21, or whenever it were, and I know they increase by the day and by the month and by the year, so it can go up to $100,000 a day or something like that? There's different penalties?
So basically, there was on the old administrative order, there was a max that they could get to that they couldn't exceed. As far as the new one, I have not seen that on the documents, so I couldn't speak to.
So my question is, what are we gonna do now so that we avoid that from happening? And address those issues right away when they do give us those reports? Because 2 years is too long of a time for us to be notified that we're not in compliance or that we're in violation, and for us to be having to wait 2 years to pay them or pay the fines or address the fines or correct the issue is way too long. I think that's I mean, we should have never been in that situation.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, our intent is to assure that with our current facility, we do our best to maintain and upkeep the system to provide viable water. And we're going to do that in coordination and communication with the Drinking Water Bureau in the state of New Mexico. Relative to the improvements that we will also move on a fast track to do, those also have to be in coordination, communication, and actually have the approval of the Drinking Water Bureau in the state of New Mexico before we advance those. So I understand the urgency and the need to make sure we stay on top of it, and I commit to you, we will stay on top of it. But I also note that we will stay on top of it in coordination, communication, and ultimate approval from the state of New Mexico as we advance projects and new ideas and new equipment and new facilities for the delivery of our water.
Councilman Montoya, also to add to that, I think one of the things that we have, I know towards the end of February, myself, the previous city manager, Councilor Martinez, and Ms. Deb had met with the Drinking Water Bureau, and one of the main topics was previously there was no upper management level communication, it seemed. And I think that's one of the things that we're changing. And again, when we go tomorrow to meet again, is we want to make sure that there's non-response from directors, is that the city manager and mayor know of any issues or compliance, or, you know, if there's non-response letters, then I think it needs to move up the chain of command to where we understand, and not only the mayor. I mean, if there's not a response to the mayor and the governing body, so that's one of the main topics that we want to make sure that, you know, that we as leadership know what's going on. And the same thing kind of with what happened with the audit report. We feel the same thing. We told the same thing to the auditors, is that, okay, if there was no movement somewhere, either the city manager or the mayor or the governing body should have been notified, so we're take care of these issues before it becomes a problem. So I'm rest assured that in any communication forward with any state agencies, that we're making sure that the city manager and the governing body or the mayor, you know of what's going on before it becomes big issues. So that's one thing that I will let you guys know that is going to be communicated to the governor's office, because I think for one point before, you know, it went and died at the director's office, and that's it. Thank you.
Mayor,
One last, on that funding, The $280-some thousand or whatever, did they come out of your budget or the general fund?
Water fund.
Water fund, okay.
Just speaking to what the mayor had said, as far as the utilities as goes, I've already met with all the entities that utilities deals with, and we've put the city manager and the mayor on top priority for anything that is sent to utilities director will be sent to them. And I believe that the mayor has already got written notes and, well, I know the old city manager was getting them as well too. And I'm not sure if they were getting them previously, but as far as it goes, we've already stated that with all the entities that there's those three that will get all the same notifications at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One more last question for Mr. Anaya. Sorry about this, but you know what? It's important. On our investments with the State Treasurer's Office and any other documents of importance in our banks here in Las Vegas, have you changed your signatures from the last city manager to yours signature?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, we have not changed all the documents. I'm 8 days in, but I will work with the finance director to expedite that happening in a timely manner. And going to the mayor's comment, I want to say, not relevant to just the utilities department, but citywide, we're going to make modifications to agreements to assure that there's triggers in place in every agreement, that if there's a lack of response from a department head, myself as the city manager, that there's a series of checks and balances that are in place to assure that communication makes its way promptly to the mayor and the governing board so that we can take action and fix things when there's error.
Thank you. Councilman Martinez? Councilor Martinez?
Yes, Mr. City Manager Morris, Madrid. I guess I just wanted to know the consequences of the audit. I'm going to go back to the audit a little bit. An audit that's not turned in on time, that has issues, there's consequences. Can you give me an idea what those consequences are so that the governing body is aware of them and also the general public?
If the audit report is turned in late, it's automatically a finding for a late audit. And that doesn't matter whether it's 1 day, 1 month, 6 months, that's automatic. Any other consequences depend on who relies on the audit. If there's funding entities that would require that we had to have our audit in, let's say by March 1st, and we didn't have it in, there could be consequences for that. We may not be eligible for funding, or funding may be issued conditionally. There could also be, and other entities have experienced this one, the need for a fiscal agent. We have acted, I don't know if we have any currently, as fiscal agents for other entities that have had not necessarily late audits, but adverse opinions. That will not be the case here. A late audit, if you have a pretty good record, is more of a nuisance. If it turns into a pattern, that's a major concern. And I've seen that among other governmental entities. And if it turns into a pattern, it definitely affects your funding.
Funding projects and all the other, yeah, I understand.
Yes,
I
sir.
just wanted, for the governing body and the general public and even our staff to understand these deadlines are so important, and if we can't do it on time, we're not doing ourselves any good, you know what I mean? So, we need to be on top of this every time it comes around, and, just be aware that there's a lot of people in our community, and those people wonder about how we're conducting business, and that's important to me. That's important to the governing body and to you, the staff, that we do things on a timely basis. Otherwise, it is an adverse reaction from the community. So I just wanted to bring that to light. Thank you.
Understood, Councilor, and to respond to that, I think when the official report comes out, there'll be the appropriate assurance in the report for the governing body and the community.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman Martinez, I wanted to note, I read through it, but I might have read through it fast, but one of the things that we are going to implement immediately is a comprehensive calendar for every single department with every single date associated therein that is due, when it's due, leading up to it, so that on a regular basis, we will be looking at that and letting the council know that we're meeting those requirements. So we're going to be routinely reviewing that and implementing that.
Thank you, Manager.
And Counselor, I do want to add that I did reach out to Auditor Honorable Maestas. I did ask him, let him know the situation. He did say he'll expedite it, and there's a waiver, a 5-day waiver that we would do to speed things up so we could hopefully get it in time. I mean, get it, done in a timely manner now that it's, so just to assure you that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Ulibarri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, it's kind of ridiculous that we get fines on audits or even on water because, we have directors that have been experienced for a lot of years and they're not looking at the finance part of it or the water part of it. They're looking at something else, and when he comes and hits them on the face and they try to straighten out their audits or their water situation, you got people out there that are supposed to be professionals. I think we're on the wrong page. We need to start looking at that, Mr. Manager, because it comes from our city directors and our water department directors, because they're the ones that are out there every day, and they know what's going on. If we're out there, I think we would be taking a look at that. That's our number one priority. Number one priority is our water, and I think we're lacking some accountable people out there. Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you. Councilman Ulibarri, I agree, and I will work collectively with our team to assure that we advance corrections and move forward to improvements and bringing information to you on a consistent and constant basis as to that progress.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for your report. And again, I know 8 days and it feels like a long time because you've been so busy. So thank you for stepping up and, and dealing with what we're having to encounter. I appreciate your hard work and support.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On that one piece associated with the detail associated with FEMA, that's something that's front and center of everyone's mind. I know the mayor and council as well as the community. So I'm going to ask our finance director to ask Deborah to come forward to help to convey what's happening with that and how we're going to advance the claim.
Welcome, Deb.
Well, I'll start off by just giving a little bit of background on the way that we have to coordinate our efforts to make sure that we get reimbursed properly. I think there's two pieces to it, and then I'll let Deborah explain a little better. Do expenditures qualify under action required for an emergency that we've had? And not only for the emergency, but for the cascading events that follow. If they do, then the second part that's required is the documentation to prove that the expenditures are related to the emergency, that they're qualified, properly documented, authorized, and relative to that emergency. That's the finance portion of it, is the documentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I think that in particular, what we're talking about is this first project that we've been pursuing actually since August of last year. So it has been quite a struggle with FEMA to get them the documentation and move that process along. We're very close to being able to submit that reimbursement request to the state of New Mexico. That particular amount, $6.5 million, is all of the expenses that were related to the event in June of 2024. That includes the water distribution, it includes the dewatering of the dam, it includes a lot of the emergency stuff that went along with that event. We had quite a few and worked with the finance department early on to get as many of those receipts and invoices as we could. We've been able to substantiate or validate, FEMA's been able to validate $2.9 million in expenditures. They actually referred to the HPCC Claims Office another $3.6 million. So the anticipated reimbursement is $6.5 million on that particular project. And that one is moving through the FEMA pretty well at this point. Hadn't been for a long time. There's a lot of back and forth on that. The one thing I do want to say is that last week we met with the finance department and committed to help pull documents and get the backup and all those things that are needed to actually pursue the reimbursement claim. So we're going to try and work through that with Morris and his team, Mr. Madrid and his team. We've also gotten a copy of the general ledger, all of the expenditures that the city has classified to the Emergency Cost Code Center.
Right.
If that's what you guys call it.
Yes, emergency fund.
The emergency fund. We've been through that. As I told the city manager, this is a point in time. If there are additional expenditures that we didn't identify during the course of that initial sweep of invoices, we're able to amend this project and include those. We've been through the general ledger. I had a report from Dominic, and he sent something to Lance, sent something to Dominic.
Right.
I think we've identified about $800,000 additional that we can pursue once this gets obligated. So we've actually been through the whole general ledger for that cost center, and we've identified everything that's either in a project or can be put into a project. So we just have some follow-up to do. So we're continuing to pursue any reimbursement request that are available.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we're going to continue this theme, if you will, of bringing forward the progress incrementally to show you where we're at and how we're going to advance our steps forward so that we break down the very large pieces that we're going to continue to seek funding and reimbursement from FEMA for. Is that accurate, Deb?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, yeah. So on this worksheet that you gave us, you say a total reimbursement has been $6,539,000?
$6,539,370, yes.
And we have a request for how much? 140 million?
We have various projects that are working through the FEMA process. The next one that's very close to being put forward or obligated, as they call it, funded, is all of the expenditures related to the temporary facility. Right now, we have identified $3.7 million that FEMA has validated and has agreed to. We just got the project yesterday, so our team is looking through it at this point to see if there's anything missing. I will tell you that catches up the city for all of the expenditures on all of the ActiFlow, and it also carries those ActiFlow payments through November of this year. And the reason it's only November of this year is that FEMA requires us to get a time extension every 6 months. So pretty soon, we'll ask for another time extension for an additional 6 months, but that's how it works.
And we spent $2.9 million, or we got spent $2.9 million so far, and we only have one contractor or two that are on board?
I believe there are more than 2 contractors that were on board. I think there were quite a few. This was all of the initial emergency work. So it was the water distribution, water hauling, dewatering of the dam. I think there was some Taylor well work that's involved in that as well. Maybe some pumps at Story Lake. There's a lot of emergency stuff that was going on just during that June 21st.
And on the Viola, there's no amounts here. Why is that?
This is actually, this portion has to do with the second project that we're trying to reconcile right now with what FEMA gave us. This has to do with the temporary facility project. So I will have that to the city manager, hopefully midweek next week, on where we ended up with the temporary facility funding. But that's, the backside of this is really a second project. The front part is the accounting for the 6.5 million that was spent just on emergency work, not on the temporary facility work.
Yeah, and if I could, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, and the full council, the reimbursement has not been received. This is the first reimbursement request that we're advancing to get reimbursement,
Yeah.
correct?
And that's where I'm getting at, is that, 2 points. That Viola is not operating, right? It's not operational right now, today?
We're still waiting for approval from the Drinking Water Bureau on our permit. We're very close to having that done. I know that there's some meetings scheduled for tomorrow, and then there's some training next week. So
And we
hopefully-
received it on an emergency basis on what month and what year?
I don't have that date right in front of me, but it had to have been August or so of last year,
Middle of August.
2 weeks after the fire?
after the flood.
2 weeks after the fire?
The flood.
No.
About a month
This was-
after the flood.
This was the Viola, the Actiflow came as a result of the breach and the flood in June.
And we haven't utilized it.
So if I could add to that.
Yeah.
So what happened is we had the Viola system up until, I think, October.
December.
Or December.
Yeah.
What happened is now the state, because it's been longer, they issued a temporary permit. Am I right in saying this, Travis? A temporary permit. But now, because it's longer than 6 months, I believe, is that what the requirement was, 6 months, Travis?
So it was a temporary permit,
Travis, come speak into a microphone.
I think this is important to note, because right now, what's currently happening is now the Drinking Water Bureau is considering it a permanent, even though it's still not our permanent.
It's a temporary facility, but because of the length of time, the 3 years that we're planning on having it available to the city, they're considering it a little bit more than temporary. Temporary, they're considering like 90 days. So the initial permit was a temporary permit. When that permit came due, the time frame of that came due, the Drinking Water Bureau decided that they really wanted a little bit more information than just what they had for the temporary. So then they required us to put in a full-blown application, which is a lot more time-consuming and a lot more to it. That was submitted December 10th of last year, and we are still working through that permit with the Drinking Water Bureau.
And
We had our last RFI, hopefully, got to the engineers on Monday.
so, Mr. Martinez, do you have confidence in that Viola system?
as of right now, we're gonna do the training, like Deborah said. We're gonna bring it online because there's a lot of tweaks that we have to make to the machine to make it, more permanent. As opposed to just having it temporary the way we had it.
And wasn't that contract up in December?
The Veolia? No, it's a 3-year contract.
3 year.
3-year. So right now, like Deborah said, it was brought in just as a temporary piece of equipment to help us with turbidity. It did meet the specs of it, but right now, due to the fact that we got due to the fact that we got into the 3-year contract, the Drinking Water Bureau actually made us or recommended us to do a permanent, permit. So based on that, now that piece of equipment becomes part of our facility. So by that becoming part of our facility, now they're asking for more information. That's what's taken a lot longer to do than the temporary permit.
But it hasn't been used since when?
December.
December. Yes, sir. So right now it's coming along, it's getting everything that it needs. We're gonna have a training now on the 18th. And as that is being done, the SOPs and everything will be developed, and we're hoping to have the new permit now by the end of July.
And just so we, everything's clear here, because we don't have the permit, we can't operate it at all. Am I correct in saying that? So in
So we-
December of 2024 is when we submitted the permit, and we haven't received anything, so we can't use it until that permit is approved by the state. Is that?
And how much are we paying every month?
I believe the contract, Morris, quote me if I'm wrong, but it's 30, is it 27 or 24,000 a month?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And one last question, Mr. Anaya. So on all this funding, we have probably $140 million in requests for FEMA. And we've paid out of our general fund $66,500,000. And then that's supposed to be reimbursed from FEMA.
So,
But what have we gotten from FEMA to this date? Reimbursements.
Mayor, Councilman Montoya, we
Besides
have,
the 98
this,
million, I'm sorry.
we haven't drawn any resources against the 98 million. This $6 million are resources that were expended by the city of Las Vegas that we're utilizing the documentation that we had to derive to get to the point to send the documentation in to get the reimbursement back. The point of the incremental placement of this on this agenda for you, the mayor and council, was to demonstrate, contrary to some of what has been said in recent days, that there has been a lot of active expenditure and use of dollars from the city coffers, as you point out, that we are now seeking or going to seek specific reimbursement based on the level of documentation that we need to provide. That's pretty complicated and needs to be very clear and concise. Is that an accurate reflection, Deborah?
Yes, sir. I think what's important to know is that we have started, the city of Las Vegas started this request with the state and FEMA in August of last year. August of last year. And when I tell you we meet weekly and we beat up on people daily, that's what happens. And I apologize that the system and the program is the way it is, but it's a fact, and it's not something that is unusual. It may be a little bit longer, but in my experience over the last 20 years, if you're not persistent and you don't stay after this on a daily basis, you will never get any of the reimbursement. So we've committed a lot of time and effort to getting to this point where FEMA's agreed to reimburse the city. We have multiple projects. This is just one that's close that we can talk about, that I have confidence in the fact that those reimbursements will be forthcoming hopefully pretty soon. We've also already started to work with the finance department to put together the documentation that the state will now require. FEMA requires one level of documentation in order to fund the project. Then there's a whole nother process that we have to go through with DHSEM in order to get those reimbursements actually reimbursed to the city. So we've started that process with the finance department in anticipation of having that package ready quickly, and hopefully when you have your discussions tomorrow, you can let them know that that's coming and maybe some help.
Mr. Mayor, Deborah, if you would, could you comment on the communication and coordination that's existing now as of recent weeks relative to getting the paperwork that you need and putting into place the communication that we need to have to make sure we get the documents done? Could you comment on that?
Absolutely. I think in the last 8 days, I've had more interaction with the finance department than I had in the whole year I've been here. I think that there's a mutual understanding now that we're here to try and help get the city money, and there's also an understanding that that it's tedious and that it's time-consuming and that we're here to support. But the team has been great. I think, getting the general ledger, being able to go through all of those expenses, I think has been really, really helpful. And we've committed to bring resources to actually participate and help take the burden off of the finance department so that they can do their real job, their regular job, rather than having to pull documents or scan things that we might need going forward. But I feel very comfortable and confident that we're going to capture every expense that the city has expended with regard to this disaster, and we will submit them. I'm hopeful that they will get paid one way or the other, but we will submit them and we'll fight to have them reimbursed.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Anaya, and I think this is where I'm getting to, is that, some people think that we have an open checkbook at the city of Las Vegas, and how much are we going to spend before we start getting reimbursed? Because to this day, other than the 98 million, we've gotten 0 reimbursements. And are we going to cough up 30 million, 60 million before we get any reimbursements? To me, I think that's bad business. I think that things need to move further along. And, we do have another contract for an attorney on the agenda too. And maybe we need to start utilizing that. I don't know what the answers. But I don't have an open checkbook. And I'm not willing to spend $100 million before we get any money from FEMA. So I don't know what's the time frame that we're going to allow this to happen or continue to happen. I think there's got to be some projection as to we're going to only put out so much money before we start getting some money back in, because we'll go bankrupt.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, Councilman Montoya, my immediate goal in coordination with Deborah, our internal team, and this governing board is to assure that reimbursements and money that we've already expended begins to come to you in a systematic way so that you can see what we spent. And so my immediate goal is to break down those projects that we've had in coordination with Deborah, in coordination with Mr. Madrid and our whole team, to break them down, to make sure the data is in hand and that we submit those for reimbursement, priority 1. Relative to your second point, I couldn't agree with you more that it's important for us to garner the reimbursements back in our coffers before we advance any significant projects moving forward. That's going to be parallel tracks, and what I can assure you is that as we have proposals and discussions on large projects that will impact expenditures to the city, that those projects are going to come before this governing board with full review and background and professional expertise advice to provide you that with my input before you make the determinations on approvals to move forward. And so I hear the concern, and I'm going to start with reimbursements. I'm going to start with working to break down what we need to get our money back for. And then when we advance big projects, we're going to bring those back for the consent and approval of the governing board.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Morris.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I just want to make a comment. In reference to, this worksheet that was handed out to us, this is proof that the city of Las Vegas has ultimately put their eggs in a basket so we can move forward. There was a lot mentioned just a little bit ago with with Deb in reference to her being able to get the information that she needs to proceed, okay? If she can't get the information to proceed, then we're the ones holding the ball. And really, the consultant, our consultant, is trying to get this thing done. But this is more than proof that it's a working document, it's moving forward. And I just want to emphasize that, yeah, these reimbursements do need to come in, that's real important for us. And I could see where it's very, very important for our finances moving forward, but we can't get there without the right steps. And you're taking the right steps, and I applaud that. So, again, I just want to say thank you to all the teams involved to making sure that this document gets out there so that we can get those reimbursements back. So, that's it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilman.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our next item, approval of minutes for May 21st, 2025.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes with very minor corrections that have already been sent in.
Second, Mr.
A
Mayor.
motion by Counselor Casey, second by Counselor Ulibarri. All in
Mr.
favor?
Mayor.
Discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to point out to page 9 of the minutes. I know that this governing body during the organizational meeting, when we got elected, chose not to go verbatim unless we're asked to go, unless we request to go verbatim. But it's kind of unacceptable for me to see on item number 4, where Council Montoya gave a lengthy discussion regarding Resolution 0611 and number 2516. That does not explain anything to the public or anybody that wants to find out my position on how I voted no on item number 4. I think there should have been a little bit more of, I spent probably 8 minutes on my vote and describing why I voted no. And this was against the resolution to allow 15 new water taps in the county. But to see this minutes and then the other thing is that it didn't even come out on YouTube. Technical difficulties, I guess, or something or other. But to me, I think the people ought to deserve to know how every councilman feels on every subject. And I will approve this minutes, but I would like to have more input as far as that goes, Madam Clerk.
Understood, Counselor.
Thank you.
Roll call?
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari? Yes. Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya? Yes. I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to our business items. Our first item is request approval to accept funding from the New Mexico Law Enforcement Protection Fund. We have our Police Chief, Mr. Caleb Marcus.
Good evening, Mayor, Council,
Chief.
Mr. Manager. This is just seeking the approval for our Law Enforcement Protection Fund. It's a grant that we apply for every year. We get a base salary for the officers that we do have, and then we get an additional $1,500 per officer. This does help purchase equipment, send officers to training, and just with our daily operation costs. So we're just requesting approval to accept the funding.
Counselors?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the LEPF distribution for fiscal year 2026.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Martinez. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey? I
Yes.
have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to our business item number 2, update on the Community Development Block Grant, our CDBG 2025 application program, public hearings, and selection of a project by the governing body. We have our Public Works Director, Mr. Arnold Lopez.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is part of the process to apply for the CDBG 2025 program. So we're required to hold 4 public hearings. and get input from residents, if any, to select projects and do recommendations. And so we hosted these 4 public hearings. They were advertised as required, and we did not receive any input whatsoever. So we didn't have nobody attend these hearings. But again, it is part of the process and it's a requirement. And at this point, being that we didn't have any recommendations, I would like to take the opportunity to recommend a project for this application. And as you all know, our previous CDBG project was on Hot Springs, and we're doing another phase of it with city money. And at this point, I would recommend that we consider for the 2025, the final phase of the project, which will be from Bernalillo Street to Valencia Street. So I stand for questions.
Councilman Martinez.
So would that, Mr. Lopez, would that include the bridge or replacement of the bridge at that location?
So unfortunately, it wouldn't, because if we were, and it's a historical bridge, that would require a lot of permit and consideration through SHPO and all that process. The bridge itself, I personally have examined it and stuff, and it seems to be in pretty good condition. It does require some work in the approach side of the retaining system. Retaining walls and stuff like that do need some work. It is some of the areas that I met with Deborah's group and team, and I believe it's in one of the, I guess, one of the, what do you call it, requests actually to address those issues that were created during some flooding events. But answer to your question is that it would not include the actual bridge. And again, typically, we have a cap of $750,000 cap on these applications. Yes, sir. The bridge itself would obviously be way more than that.
Correct.
But this year, they've lifted the cap, and of course, we got to be reasonable with our request. But it would address all the street to include some utility work that needs to happen in that place, wastewater system that needs to be upgraded.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Casey.
Thank you. I'm glad that you mentioned that the bridge is a historical bridge, because I used to walk under that bridge when I was a little girl going home from school. But most of the bridges that have been built in Las Vegas that are made out of the rock, those were built by prisoners of war that were stationed or imprisoned at Camp Luna, Camp Maximiliano Luna. And a lot of them stayed here, and that's why we have so many people that live in Las Vegas that have German last names like Mueller, or French last names like Lefebvre, and so on. So I would like to request that that bridge be preserved as much as possible. And I know that some of the bridges, actually, the German prisoners put in rocks that represent a swastika. And I think those should remain there to remind us that this is part of our history and that we need to preserve it as best as we can. So I'm happy to hear that you recognize that fact, and I hope that we can do everything we can to preserve the bridges that are made out of, that same stone, and, keep it as part of our wonderful history that we have for our great little town. Thank you.
I agree with you. The work that went into that bridge, given the date and time that it was, erected in place, it's amazing work. And to see that it's still in decent condition is pretty amazing.
Councilors, Councilman Montoya.
We'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the community block grant 2025 for Hot Springs Boulevard.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Montoya, second by Councilor Casey. Discussion, seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Mayor, Council, does that include the project that was recommended by Mr. Lopez?
Hot Springs Boulevard?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
That would be from Bernalillo Street to Valencia. For the minutes.
Councilor Olivari?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to business item number 3, request approval of resolution number 2519, calling for a regular local election to be held on November 4th, 2025, and notifying the San Miguel County Clerk of the positions to be filled. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For this item, as I put in your packet and mentioned in the agenda, in June of 2022, the governing body adopted the ordinance that's attached to it, and they opted into the local regular election at that time. And that was established by the Local Election Act that was approved back in 2018. The resolution attached, if I may just read into the record those positions that will be filled for the public. So those positions to be filled shall be filled during the regular local election on Tuesday, November 4th, 2025. One mayor for a 4-year term. Ward 2, 1 councillor for a 4-year term. Ward 3, 1 councillor for a 4-year term. And in Ward 4, 1 councillor for remainder of a 4-year term, and that's basically a 2-year. The county clerk wanted it worded that way in the resolution. And just so you know, the county clerk didn't require a resolution for this, but I thought it would be a good practice to bring this to council and continue to do it by resolution. I'll stand for any questions.
It was August 26th, not the 25th.
August 26th is when they filed candidacy.
Councilman Martinez.
I did notice your item D, okay, and I know that's the way it is. And I do plan to run for the seat naturally for Ward 4. And it is for the remainder of a 4-year term.
Right.
Which is 2 years left, so it's the way it is. We just take it as it is, no? Thank you.
And there's no election for Ward 1?
No, not till 2027, as well as for the judge,
Another,
the next cycle.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Montoya.
Yeah, can you have the clerk repeat the dates? There's a lot of interest in the community for running for office, City of Las Vegas offices. So could you repeat that date for them? And this time around, they won't be coming to the City Hall. They will be going to San Miguel County Clerk's office.
That is correct. So when we opted into the local regular election, the county clerk will administer that election. So that's including municipalities, schools, so forth. I'll go ahead and repeat that. Declaration of candidacy for the regular local election shall be filed on Tuesday, August 26, 2025, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. at the San Miguel County Clerk's Office, and that's located at 500 West National Avenue, Suite 113, here in Las Vegas. Also, we have declarations of writing candidacy. Deadline for candidates to withdraw their candidacy for the regular local election shall be filed on Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., also at the San Miguel County Clerk's Office.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to request the approval of resolution number 2519, calling for the regular local election to be held on November the 4th, 2025, and notifying the San Miguel County Clerk of the positions to be filled.
Second.
Councilman Montoya, second by Councilor Martinez. Roll call.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Olivari?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Moving on to our next item. Business item 4, request approval of addendum number 1 to contract 409824 with the Salsa Group for disaster recovery services for the city of Las Vegas, New Mexico, current and future disasters. We have our city manager, Mr. Robert A. Anaya.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this extension would authorize the extension and ongoing work and coordination with the Salsa Group, and I stand for any questions.
Councilors? Councilors, what I'd like to recommend, at the end, this is a decision you guys, can take or not. But I would ask that on 2 compensation, on payment, where it says the payment to contractor shall be made to the city on a monthly basis upon receipts, I would ask that we remove, it's page 3 of 7, remove monthly basis upon receipt of contractors' invoices. I think based off of what, we've experienced, we have, asked here from the governing body that we get monthly invoices and made payment to. But I think it also, depends on, projects, submitted. And I think it's been difficult in the past. And I think that this way, we don't make payments until we see some of that, make sure that some of these are PA eligible as we move forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would concur with that recommendation. I believe that the payment to the Salsa Group should be commensurate with reimbursements retained. And so that, I would agree with that recommendation, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Councilman?
You know what, I don't know, the language on here, current and future disasters, that means almost anything. And I think that the intention of mayor and council on this contract was to address the issues with our disaster that we had in our floods and in our fires, not to do snow removal or not to do accidents in the interstate or any other disaster. So I think that language needs to change.
Councilor, page, just so.
That was page 1 of 7. Page 1 of 7, yeah. Yeah, 1 of 7. It's on the agreement. Well, it's in various places where it says current and future disasters.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, I would concur with that recommendation as well. I believe the focus should be clear and articulate the work is connected to the work of the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak Fire.
And also, I guess this changed to $2 million compensation from $750,000. That's on
Mr. Mayor,
amendment number 1.
Councilman Montoya, I believe the compensation is consistent with what it previously was.
It was at $750,000, if I recall. And that's on page
Madrid.
3 out of 7.
There was an action taken in a recent past meeting.
Mr. Madrid, if you could come to the microphone, please.
Mayor and council, there was an action taken by this governing body to extend and increase the term and the amount of the contract, or just the amount, from $750,000 to $2 million. That was an amendment. As an amendment to the contract, this, I believe, is just to extend the time so that the $2 million would remain in place
For a period of 1 year?
for an additional year. Yeah.
And Mr. Madrid, since you're up here,
Uh-oh.
well, you're the one that pays the bills.
Yes,
so
sir.
You got to answer the questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but on these invoices, did we get invoiced for the diesel spill through this contract?
I believe a couple of the invoices were to address that event. Yes, sir.
And wasn't that a contractor's fault, or was that the city's fault?
I'm not sure. but it definitely was not a cascading event.
Okay.
So we have not paid for those. Those have not been paid for.
Okay, and then we had a snowstorm this last year.
November 7th,
And I saw different contractors cleaning snow for the city.
yes.
Was that part of this contract?
There was time spent and claimed by the Sulzer Group for helping to organize an emergency team for that event. Yes.
And why is that related to the fires or the flood?
It's not necessarily related to the fire or the floods. It relates to the language that you addressed in any future emergencies.
Okay.
It doesn't say FEMA emergencies.
My point taken.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, there obviously needs to be some additional work, and I guess I'm gonna allow Mr. Martinez to make a few comments, but we have to be cautious with amendments relative to the intent of the original request for proposal, which could jeopardize the agreement itself. And so I think it would probably be prudent to have a discussion with legal counsel before any amendments are made and before the mayor or the governing board would take action on it.
Thank you, I appreciate that, because you know what, I have concerns that we're not utilizing this contract the way it should be, and that we're paying them not the way we should be paying them, and that's come we've had to have some amendments made, and thank you for explaining that to us, Mr. Madrid. One last question on this contract, and whether it's tabled or looked at. So are we up to date on this contract?
We've paid a little over $900,000 to date that we've actually paid. We have approximately $600,000 in invoices pending, of which I think 2 of those relate to the diesel spill that you talked about. They have not been paid. We are waiting invoices for the last 2 or 3 months that haven't been submitted. That's where we stand.
So, on the $600,000, who's gonna be responsible for that? Was it done by city employees, a contractor, or who's paying for that?
So when it comes back to the diesel spill was done by the Veolia staff. It happened in the middle of the night. We got EPA involved, and we got Clean Harbor. We got a third party due to EPA's recommendation not to use a city contractor due to issues down the road if it does turn out like that. We did get Clean Harbors. They did charge the city $124,000 to come in and remediate the diesel spill. And the reason that had to be done is because the spill was about 10 feet away from the clarifier from our drinking water. I do know that we were wrapping everything up with Clean Harbors as far as payment goes, which was paid out through utilities. I did talk with the old city manager about who we send that bill to. Of course, there's been change. But as far as it goes, I know we have related all the information to finance. As far as that goes.
We did
So
not
just-
consider that FEMA-related emergency in the payment. That was paid from their operating fund.
So just an update, I know in speaking with the previous city manager, there was supposed to be discussion, and I don't know where it ended there, but I know they were gonna try to either directly talk with Viola to talk about that bill, so that was kind of left undone, so I think that's something, Mr. City Manager, you'll probably have to.
I will. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think it's important to note that we don't want to tarnish the RFP and the use of the resources that we have at the contractor. The contract does expire on the 14th of June. And so what I would articulate to the mayor and the council is that if the mayor and the council would extend the contract, that it's noted on the record and duly noted by me that the intent of the agreement was to utilize for purposes related to the Calf Canyon fire, and that's where we will utilize the services associated with the contractor. To delay could cause problems associated with all the work that we've just engaged in with the Sulzer Group, with staff to get to our reimbursements, to get them done and get them accomplished. So I would ask Mayor and Council that you consider that, but I duly note the position that's been reflective and would agree with relative to the limitation on where we use it, the group for emergencies. And so I would put that forward to the mayor and council respectfully.
So Travis, just some of the, I know, requested changes by myself and Councilor Montoya, those were probably in the, so you're saying those were in the RFP, so if they are, and any changes could affect everything overall?
So, right now, just looking over I'm sorry, I had to remind myself of the contract. But basically, the contract that we have with the Sulzer Group is any FEMA-related projects. That's it.
But I'm talking about the billing and invoicing part, was that part of the RFP too?
Yes.
I don't know.
So, part of the RFP is anything that happens to deal with FEMA, that's billing, anything like that, will go through the Sulzer Group. And that's any FEMA-related project. And if you guys read the contract, I'm pretty sure you guys have it right in front of you. If you read the scope of work, on the second paragraph, it says, in order to accomplish the proper recovery, professional management of FEMA-funded projects. And it also has the number 1 through 7. And it talks about securing federal funding, adequate cash flow to execute projects, develop the DDD, scope of work, cost estimates, cost calculation of completed work, project formulation review, procurement support, grant administration and accounting support, request for reimbursements, and project closeouts. Those are everything that is related to this contract.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, whatever decisions were made previously for other emergencies fell out of the scope of what was just reflected in the reading of Mr. Martinez, and I understand the intent and intention of the contract and will uphold that and not utilize the contract for other matters that the city will deal with on their own.
And one last comment on this, Mr. Mayor. You know, you said we already spent $900,000 on this contract, and that was up to February. So we don't know what's coming from February to now,
December, I believe,
or
Councilor.
December. So we don't know, we haven't gotten an invoice, or we haven't paid anything from December to now.
We haven't paid anything past December. We do have invoices amounting to a little under, around $600,000 that have not been processed yet.
Okay, and what have we gotten for it? How much money have gone from FEMA from it, reimbursements?
For this particular contract, we haven't gotten any.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I just want to clarify, I know on that, and I don't know where it was, but I know the previous city manager requested these invoices and to be paid. And my whole, I mean, Counselor, what you're bringing up, if I recall, you had asked for invoices from the previous city manager, and then a bill was paid. And that's how come I'm trying to address that language in here, to, reflect, probably some of your concerns, but I do want to, it was from within questions that you had brought forth, I know even in a finance committee meeting, about how come we haven't gotten invoices, how come we haven't paid. But, and I don't know if, as we approve that extension on the amount of money paid, that was one of the things that I think Deb felt that she was basically by billing us and not, seeing some of the results was something that she had addressed.
And I understand that, Mr. Mayor. There were mistakes done, and actually the contract was probably jeopardized, the way I look at it. But to pick it up from $750,000 to $2 million, I mean, that's a hefty price tag to pay for no reimbursements.
Mr. Mayor?
There's a lot of work that's done, and there's a lot of work that's out there, but nothing's coming in, so I don't know why the big increase in salaries,
Robert.
compensations.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, Deborah, would, understanding that it's been a complex process along with achieving the essential data and that you are starting even more to have a more comprehensive relationship with the staff of the finance department, the collection of data, the assemblance and packaging of the claims to be reimbursed. Would you accept an amendment within the contract that the mayor is suggesting?
I don't have a problem with the invoices not being required to be submitted on a monthly basis. I can tell you that the amount of the contract is a not to exceed amount. Our time is billed on an hourly basis with rates that were competitively bid in the RFP. I believe, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I believe the contract reflects the terms of the RFP. That's what we bid on, and that's what the contract corresponds to. We've tried very, very hard, as I think I explained when this issue came up before, to be able to put our time connected to projects that are reimbursable by FEMA, and we have done that, and that has taken a lot of work. It has taken a lot of, I don't want to call it sacrifice, but a lot of risk on our part to do that so that we could make sure that we were able to very clearly show where the money that we were expending, the time that we were expending, where it was connected and how the city could be reimbursed. We went through and did a whole chart on how each one of those projects, that's why the billing is so complicated. So I am okay with the requirement that that the billing doesn't have to be done every 30 days. I will tell you that if we make the contract contingent on a reimbursement from FEMA, then it is void for reimbursement. That is a requirement, that you cannot have a contingent contract. So we're very conscientious. We've been very deliberate in how we spend our time. Our role has been to assist the city in emergency management. I think that's what we've done. That's what we've been asked to do. There isn't anything that me or my staff have done that hasn't been at the request of the city. So to think we're just out there billing for no reason is a little bit offensive.
So, Mr. City Manager, what's offensive to me is coming up from $750,000 to $2 million. What's the explanation for that?
Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding that the increase to the contract happened before I sat in this chair. I'm not making excuses associated with the contract. What I would articulate is that my intent is to work collectively and collaboratively with Deborah and her team and our team to document claims based on her expertise and that of her team in an efficient manner to be able to submit those claims and then ultimately get reimbursement back to the city. Ultimately, Mayor, Councilman Montoya, it's up to the governing body as to whether or not you choose to accept to continue the contract within the provisions in front of you. If you so choose not to, then, I respect that direction. So we bring it forward in full faith that we're going to work in partnership with Deborah and her team to mitigate getting claims as soon as possible to get some reimbursements.
And I understand that too, Mel. As chairman of the finance committee, I gotta be responsible too, and so does our committee. And I don't even know, I haven't seen where an increase of $1 million was in our budget for this year. So this is an adjustment that's gonna have to be made. And I still wanna know if there's anybody in the room that can justify or tell me why, who made this decision of bringing this with $2 million price tag on it from $750,000? I mean, somebody had to
there was
written this.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, it's got my name on it, and so I'll take responsibility for bringing forward the contract as it is, to be able to have consideration of the mayor and council as to whether or not it should proceed forward or not. So I'll go ahead and, I'll take responsibility for that, Councilman Montoya.
And basically, I wanted more of a
Yeah.
justification why that big increase. That's double, over double the increase. And then it's not even budgeted on this year's budget. You know, that's another big bite to our adjustments that this council will have to do down the road.
Mr. Madrid.
To provide a little more background on the $2 million increase, that was recommended by the former city manager, I believe, to accommodate the invoices that were pending. They had clearly exceeded the 750,000, so an increase was required. I can't tell you why it was 2 million, but that was the reason for the increase in the contracted amount. The other thing that I wanted to mention, Mr. Mayor, is however we reframe the terms of the payment, we should thoroughly have an attorney review that in comparison to the Prompt Payment Act. We're required to comply with that in the state of New Mexico as a governmental entity, which means we have to either dispute, reject, or make payment once invoices are presented within a 45-day period. So we have to make sure we comply with that.
Thank you. Councilors?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Martinez?
I want to move to approve addendum number 1 to the contract 4098-24 with the Sulzer Group for Disaster Recovery Services for the City of Las Vegas, New Mexico, current and future disasters. And I would like to see if I could remove item C under number 2, compensation. And if everybody is okay with that,
Page is that on?
it is on page 3 of 7.
Motion by Councilor Martinez. Do I have a second?
Would you explain that second part again that you want done?
Yes. Item C is the information I think that our mayor mentioned, removing it on a monthly basis, and I believe that Ms. Sulzer was okay with doing that, if I'm correct.
So I'm gonna, based off of information from Travis that put the RFP, I would, maybe, Mr. City Manager, I guess, maybe we could just, I know we need the service, right? We don't wanna time lapse, but we would probably have to be amendment that we'd have to run by the attorneys and work with Deb. So I would ask that maybe we reconsider that.
Then I'll just go ahead and reconsider my motion.
But I think Deb is willing to sit at the table on that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, might I suggest if there's consideration of a motion, that the motion include upon review and acceptance by our legal and the contractor's agreement with any change to compensation disbursement language.
Okay,
And that might achieve assuring compliance with what Mr. Madrid brought forth, as well as comments noted by Mr. Martinez and the contractor.
okay. Mr. Mayor, can I go ahead and revise that? Okay, so I would go ahead and approve the addendum number 1 to contract number 4098-24 with the Sulzer Group for Disaster Recovery Services for the City of Las Vegas, New Mexico, and current and future disasters in regards to allowing our legal to take a look at this contract as well.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Martinez, if you would consider adding or adjustment and agreement between
With an
our legal
adjustment
and the
agreement.
contractor.
Okay, with adjustment and legal for that contract.
Motion by Councilor Martinez. And I have a second.
Thank you.
I would like to hear from Ms. Sulzer first.
Ms. Deb?
I apologize, is there a particular on the motion? Or,
On the motion,
I mean,
I'm concerned because the language is clear. It says shall not exceed a total of $2 million. That doesn't mean that $2 million is gonna be spent. That's correct. It just means
The-
that it's not gonna go over that amount.
and I want to make sure everyone understands how the contract works. If tomorrow you guys have nothing for us to do, then we don't send an invoice. It's only when we're called upon at the request of the city manager to help facilitate or to help assist the city in an emergency or in processing FEMA claims or whatever it is that we're being asked to do. And I think that the contract, and it's pretty standard around all of the disaster stuff, it's intended to be broad and more like a Chinese menu where you pick and choose what you would like for us to do, as opposed to being restricted. We can only hold this pair of eyeglasses, right? So if you're restricted in emergency situations, you usually have to zig and zag and be pretty flexible in how you react. So I think the intention is not to do everything for the city. It is to be available to do what the city needs. And I think that's, at least that's our intention. I mean, it's availability as opposed to assignment. I'm not designing a building. I'm not building a building. I don't have a scope of work that's very specific. It's intended to be flexible for the city.
Mr. Mayor, and the contract does say, lists examples of disaster recovery services that may be required. And they're not, and we're not limited to these that are listed in the contract. So, let's say that a bridge falls apart and we don't have anybody to turn to, and so the Salsa Group has expertise in that or whatever, and we ask them to come in. We're still complying with the contract, and they are too. So I have a real issue with changing language for fear of, oh, what if they're doing something that they're not supposed to do? This is a very comprehensive list, and even the language there says they're not limited to the items that are on the list. And there's a lot of services that they are providing for us already that come from this list. So I would not want to do anything to jeopardize the relationship that we have or to alter the contract in such a way that it would end up jeopardizing the services that we are receiving. And so I'm very reluctant to make any changes right now. What I would like to do, and I haven't made a motion or anything, but I would like to see this contract approved as it is with the amendment that is suggested, that we approve it. And then we have the attorneys take a look at it. I mean, this contract's in Saturday. We don't have time to sit around and say, oh, well, let's wait until, somebody looks at it, and the attorneys are usually, not available when we most need them. And so I would like to see it taken care of, voted on, approved, move forward. Then we can sit down with the Salsa Group, the attorneys on both sides, get a legal opinion, and then if we have to alter it, then we can go back, and based on that joint approval or negotiations or whatever you want to call them, then we go back and say, okay, in July, we'll fix this after, the attorneys take a look at it and make suggestions so that we don't nullify anything that is currently in this contract. So I would just urge caution extreme caution in any changes that are made, and that we approve what is on the addendum number 1.
Okay, so right now I have a motion on the floor to approve with an amendment that legal review it and that Deb agreed to, well, for legal, the city and legal both agreed to the terms and conditions. So I have a motion on the floor right now, and that's what it is, so I'll proceed. Do I have a second?
Is the motion to leave it as it is? Or was your motion including changes?
Well, it would be just to include the changes from legal, but, I mean, I could definitely go backwards and start again here. Already read it twice, okay?
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, members of the council, I think the pathway suggested by Councilwoman Casey is appropriate. I think the intent is with goodwill and good intention, if it's approved, that we're going to take another look at the compensation piece with legal and with the contractor to come up with a potential amendment. I would say that. So I think that pathway would be appropriate.
So, Counselor, if you remove your amendment,
I remove my amendment?
yes.
Yeah, okay. I would
So go
go
ahead.
ahead and move, yeah, I'd go ahead and motion to go ahead and approve it without the amendment.
A motion by Counselor Martinez. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
A second by Counselor Casey. Roll call.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Livari? Counselor Martinez? Yes. Counselor Montoya?
No.
I have a motion by Counselor Martinez, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
And again, Deb, I do want to stress that, we are very grateful for what you do for us and continue working with you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to our next item, business item 5, request approval of addendum number 1 to contract 409724 with Singleton Schreiber for the City of Las Vegas, New Mexico for damages sustained from the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon wildfires. We have our city manager, Mr. Robert A. Anaya.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this agreement extensions sustains our ability to utilize the resources and services of Singleton Schreiber for the city of Las Vegas for damages sustained at the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire. I would stand for questions.
All right, and I do want to note we have the Honorable Mr. Brian Colon in the audience. I thought he was getting ready to fly out of the state tomorrow and wouldn't be here with us, but thank you for being here. So with that, if any discussion, seeing none,
Mayor, I move that we approve addendum number 1 to contract 4097-24 with Singleton Schreiber for the City of Las Vegas for damages sustained from the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon.
motion by Counselor Casey, second by Councilman Martinez. Discussion?
Yeah, so Mr. City Manager, was there an increase on this contract for us,
Nothing's changed.
on the 15%?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Montoya, no, it's the same 15%.
Let's give him $1 million.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Roll call?
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Livari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez? Have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion
And
carries.
Mr. Honorable, if you don't mind coming up, and I know you and I, we've set up a meeting with, have set up with Mr. Anaya when you get back later this month. But I don't know if you want to, I know we haven't seen you as often, but,
I'll just say, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'll be very brief and just say it's been an honor to be your counsel. We haven't been able to be your advocate in the way that we would have liked, but we continue to be available to you. And I want to, Mr. Mayor, if I may, thank Mr. Martinez for seconding the motion. We have an ongoing conversation, so You doing that was personally significant for me, that you gave that vote of confidence by making the second. And so we do love being an advocate for this city. We are continuing to do work for public entities around the state, and we continue to hold FEMA accountable in court. And I'm proud to say that by and large, we continue to win every time in court on the issues which we're advocating for. So I'll just say thank you. And that's really the short of it and the long of it, is just gratitude for your trust and willingness to continue having us at the table. We look forward to working with the Sulzer Group. Anytime she's willing to have that conversation, we are certainly available to her, and we look forward to it. And I congratulate you on bringing on someone of such high capacity as Manager Anaya, who has a long and distinguished career of public service and public engagement and tremendous relationships that come with a lot of respect. And for him to leverage that respect and those relationships and his intelligence as it relates to governmental entities, that's really to the city of Las Vegas's credit. And I just applaud you for making that decision. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would say that I look forward to working with the two contractors that have been approved as necessary, understanding those parameters, and want to note that. And want to note that I'm appreciative of the efforts of the Sulzer Group, and want to diligently work collectively with them to engage in getting reimbursements due back to the city in accordance with the multitude of requirements that we have to jump through to get there. And so I just wanted to note that. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session in accordance with the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H5, Collective Bargaining Strategy, discussion regarding the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Local 2851, Collective Bargaining Unit Agreement, H2, Limited Personnel Matters, discussion on executive office employees' resignation and consideration of possible reassignments of 2 executive office employees, and H7, pending or threatened litigation, discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened litigation related to Hermit's Peak, Cap Canyon fire.
Motion by Councilor Casey, second by Councilor Martinez. Roll call.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Olivari?
Yes.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
Councilor Casey? I
Yes.
have a motion by Councilor Casey, a second by Councilor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Yes. We'd ask for a motion to return to regular session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we return to regular session after having met an executive session in accordance with New Mexico Open Meetings Act and MSA 1978, Section 10-15-1, H5, collective bargaining strategy, discussion regarding the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Local 2851, collective bargaining, the unit agreement. H2, limited personnel matters, discussion on executive office employee resignation and consideration of possible reassignments to two executive office employees. And H7, pending or threatened litigation, discussion subject to the attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened litigation related to the Hermes Peak Cap Canyon fire. No votes were taken during executive session and no decisions were made.
Motion by Councilor Casey. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Martinez. Roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez? Counselor Casey? Counselor Olivari? I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to our next item, consideration of the American Federal and State, County, and Municipal Employees AFSCME Local 2851 Agreement.
Council.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Montoya.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the American Federal and State, County, and Municipal Employees AFSCME Local 2859 Agreement. And with that motion, I'd also like to thank staff for the negotiating.
Mr.
Motion
Mayor,
by
may
Councilman
I,
Montoya.
may I make a quick correction? It's not federal employees, it's Federation of State, County, and, okay.
Motion by Councilman Montoya. Second by Councilman Martinez. Roll call.
Mr. Mayor,
Discussion.
that's a correction for the clerk. But, you know, I did want to emphasize that this will impact our budget by $190,000 a year. And gratefully so, we're able to help them out.
Thank you. Thank you. Roll call.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Martinez? Counselor Montoya? Counselor Olivari? I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Motion by Councilor Casey. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Martinez. He is adjourned.